Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record, whether you're here in the Cayman Islands or whether you're listening overseas via the web. For the Record is a show produced by Radio Cayman, its management and its staff specifically for you, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. For the Record is also committed to giving you access to your legislators, to our policymakers, and those also who are charged with the implementation of policy, and we continue to strive towards that goal as well. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and you can join me on For the Record every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. And that is those days if a holiday does not fall on that day, or if I don't get fish poisoning, which I will try not to get again anytime soon. Our phone lines, of course, are always open, and you are welcome to join us on For the Record by calling us on our toll-free number, which is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, then you can email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record at candw.ky. Today, we are pleased to have in our studio with us the Honorable Premier, Alden McLaughlin. We also have his Chief Officer. We also have Councillor Mr. Al Suku and his Chief Officer, that is the Premier's Chief Officer, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. Premier, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Good morning to the listening public. It's good to be here again this morning. Today we really want to talk about Heroes Day and the fact that we are again honoring those who have made major contributions to Cayman, this time with an emphasis on health services. I want to welcome Ms. Ahern, the Chief Officer, and Councillor Suku, who have come as part of my support team.
Thank you very much, Premier. For the benefit of our audience, I'm going to just read give a little history on National Heroes Day. It is the largest national celebration of heritage and culture in the Cayman Islands. National Heroes Day was first held in 2003 as part of the Cayman Islands year-long quincentennial celebrations and was always intended to be the island's largest national celebration. The devastation wrought by Hurricane Ivan, of course, in September of 2004, thwarted subsequent plans to observe National Heroes Day in the proper manner until 2007. So it's returned, and then it returned to the annual calendar amidst all the national fanfare, and it was a resounding success, drawing crowds from all over the islands and evoking a spirit of community and pride, which stirred sense and moved the soul in people in the Cayman Islands. It also sort of complements, or I would say replaces, complements the Queen's birthday celebrations. And I know, for instance, that some people who got their award, let's say, for instance, the Duke of Edinburgh Award, or even
The certificate and badge
of honor as well, had a choice of either to accept it on the Queen's birthday celebration or on National Heroes Day, and a lot of them chose National Heroes Day because it turned out to be a larger stage when at one point in time the Queen's birthday celebration was in fact that. Also, when we look at the honors, the Queen's birthday honors, the New Year honors and everything, we see that the overseas territories have been assigned less and less numbers in terms of MBEs, OBEs. We only have had one knighthood, that is Sir Vassal Johnson as well. So again, this is an opportunity for the Cayman Islands to celebrate its own heroes. And I'll pass it over to you now.
Yes, I agree. I am proud to have been the minister who reintroduced, if I may call it, the Heroes Day celebrations in the aftermath of Hurricane Ivan, because as you say, the first celebrations were in 2003, and then we had the disaster wrought by Ivan, and the government changed in 2005. And so once we had managed to get through the early part of the rebuilding and had the country stabilized, I thought it was critically important. We had so much to celebrate, having come through Ivan and having rebuilt the country the way we did, that National Heroes Day reintroduction seemed to be a natural thing to do. So we were able to do that in 2007, and it's continued every year since then. And as I said earlier this week, the concept of having a theme where we honor a specific set of people or discipline, if I may call it that, is something that an idea that I think is very, very good, because it gives us an opportunity not just to celebrate the contributions of the national heroes, of which we now have 8, but what I like to call the everyday heroes who have gotten up every morning, gone to work, not believing that they were doing anything particularly heroic, but who, as a result of all of that, have built the foundations of modern-day Cayman. And it's critically important, I think, that we recognize their achievements. Many of those who have recently come to Cayman, or more recently come to Cayman, and many of our young people simply take a lot of things for granted, believing it was always this way, and don't quite appreciate the struggles that have resulted in what we now have, and how little the earlier people of Cayman, how little they had to work with, but how enterprising they were, and the tremendous success that has resulted from their efforts. So I'm always very, very proud of National Heroes Day, and I think it is an opportunity for all of our people to come out and support those who have gone before and their contributions, but also to take pride in what Cayman has become and those efforts.
Obviously, a lot of work has to go into the preparation for this, and I'm sure that you're already probably preparing for next year's celebrations as well. Jennifer, you want to tell us something about the preparation?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I see the preparations start well in advance of the actual day. Of course, we have the public nomination period in September last year, which is a really busy time for us. And this year we had a record number of nominations. Over 260 nominations were received from the public. So it was a fantastic response. But I think it was just really indicative of the importance of the area of health services and how much and how many people have contributed to it. So the committee is appointed actually well in advance of that nomination period, puts together all the PR, gets ready to go out and look for the nominations. And then in October, we see a lot of each other, because that's the time when the committee has to go through and assess all the nominations that have been received from the public in order to make the recommendations for who should be honored on the day and in which categories they should be honored. So we have the 5 categories that we've had for the last few years. The early pioneers, who are the people who've made their significant contribution prior to 1960. The pioneers who made a contribution between 1960 and 2004. Emerging pioneers, who are people who've made significant contributions more recently, within the last 10 years. And then we also have the Long Service Awards and the Memorial Scroll. So the committee meets quite a lot through the month of October to try and get the names to the protocol office by the 1st of November. And then Melanie Sims and her team take over from there, and they are responsible for the planning and organization of the day itself. But also as well, we have the team at GIS. We have Charles Gilman, who's the head of the graphic unit there, and Yvette Cacho has been working with us. And they're responsible for doing all of the design of the collateral, the insignia, the pin that we have, the commemorative poster that everybody will get a copy of when they come on the day. And the team at the National Archives as well have been an absolutely amazing resource for us, because they've worked very hard behind the scenes, not just getting the information for the poster, but also helping us with some background on some of the nominees. Because sometimes we get the nomination in, we have to call the person who's made the nomination to verify a few things, and sometimes we also call the archives, because some of the stories that were on the nomination forms were absolutely amazing, incredible stories that some of the members of the committee remembered that their grandmother had told them about, and other ones we thought, well, could this really be true? And we'd check on something, either with the nominator or with archives or one of the references. So there is a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to come up to the day.
Okay, I know. For instance, I have a friend who lives in Tampa who was still involved in the medical profession and was here in the Cayman Islands at her local hospital and then at a private institution as well. And he was immensely thrilled, to be nominated and for his nomination to be accepted. And he's coming all the way from Tampa, to accept his award, as well. So that is good. Mr. Suku, as far as the nominations go, are any being given posthumously as well, or just for persons who are still alive?
First, good morning, OC.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I'm not exactly sure of the number, but there are a few that are being done that way.
I don't have that number. But we do have the memorial scroll, which is obviously recognizing people who have gone on, and we have we have 17 honorees in the memorial scroll category, but within the other categories as well, we are honoring people who are deceased.
But going back to what Chief Officer was saying earlier, this is a good opportunity for us to recognize and show appreciation for those who are still contributing or have recently contributed. We don't want to wait until we have to put names on a memorial scroll. We want to be proactive and have the community involved. So this is a really exciting time for Cayman. And I said earlier, I wish that we could do this more often, more than once a year. But obviously, it takes a lot of planning and preparation. But it's extremely important, I think, to the development of these islands to do things like this.
So all of those people like me my only contribution to the medical profession would be going out there to be jugged with a needle either in the dental clinic or for a vaccination. We wouldn't qualify for awards, right?
but also two bouts of fish poisoning too.
Right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Plus a bicycle crash and all those other things as well.
You never know. They might start some sort of medical study with you as a subject.
Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrit Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, we have the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. We have MLA who represents the District of Bordentown and a councillor in the government, Mr. Al Suku. And we have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We're going to take a quick commercial break now. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrit Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, we have the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. We have Councillor Mr. Al Suku, also member of the Legislative Assembly who represents the District of Bordentown. And we have Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We're talking this morning about Heroes Day, which will be celebrated this Monday. It's a holiday as well. But before you decide to head off to the beach or to go fishing, or even if you decide to go fishing, if you're an early fisherman and you want to catch the tide and catch the fish when they're out there feeding, you can go and do that and still return and get out there and enjoy the Heroes Day celebrations as well. Even if you're not a formal invitee, that you will be assigned a seat. There's a lot of standing room out there as well. And I know when I attend Heroes Day celebrations, there's so many people standing out there in the roads as well. There are parents who are out there watching their kids if they're involved in the ceremony itself, either as a scout or a guide or a cub or cadet corps or even as a police officer. Everyone gets an opportunity to to have their show on Heroes Day, a huge event in the Cayman Islands where we celebrate our culture, we celebrate our history. I also want to remind you our phone lines are open, so if you have any comments that you want to make in relation to Heroes Day, please call us on our toll-free number, which is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And you can also email us at for the record, one word, for the record, at candw.ky. Premier, the health services in the Cayman Islands has a varied and a rich history as well. You know, some people may remember or may not remember or may not know that at one point in time, the hospital, for instance, was not where it's located now, things like that. Can you tell us, let's go into the history of health services in the Cayman Islands.
The first thing I'd like to say is that for a long time, we didn't have a hospital at all.
Yes.
And I think the first hospital, according to the records, was a 4-bed hospital that was built by Mrs. Helen Lambert. So it was a private hospital in 1937 that appeared to have served for a while before it was closed. And then government reopened it in 1947 as a dispensary. And we didn't actually get a proper hospital, if I may call it that, until 1951. So for most of Cayman's history...
That was the year I was born.
Yeah. For most of Cayman's history, we didn't have a hospital at all. We had doctors appointed. I think, according to the records, the first doctor was appointed by Lord Sligo, who was governor of Jamaica at the time in 1834. And his name was Dr. Hume, Hulme. I hope I've said it the right way. But he served also as a stipendiary magistrate. so we've had doctors through the years, and some of them are really revered by the local people because they truly were saviors of our people. I mean, names that resound down through the years, like Dr. Horder, for instance, and Dr. Magnus,
Dr. Shakir.
Dr. Shakir, yeah,
McGregor.
Dr. McGregor. Those of us, even if we weren't born at the time, we grew up hearing about what they did and their contributions and how much they did with so little. And so
Dr. Rose too, you don't forget him.
Dr. Rose, and there's another one whose name I'm struggling to remember that was of real significance. But anyhow, it'll come to me. But I remember my mother talking about when her father died. He died as a very young man. He was 42. But when he took in with whatever, I think they determined was some kind of kidney failure that killed him in the end. But there was no hospital. There was no place, no formal place to put him. So the government was renting rooms at what used to be called the old, I think it was the Bayshore Hospital, which was on the waterfront. In the area there where Margaritaville is now.
Mm-hmm,
so they rented a few rooms and
yeah.
put patients there, and the doctor would go and see you.
I think that the name was changed to Bayview Hotel later on.
Bayview,
Yeah,
not Bayshore, Bayview,
Bayview,
yeah, Bayview. So, I mean, things were pretty primitive and pretty tough for a long time. So it really wasn't until the late 40s or early 50s that Cayman started to get a more formalized, system of healthcare and a facility where you could actually go to be attended to. In the earlier days, if an operation or so forth was necessary, often that had to be carried out in a house because there was no proper facility. So I think it's important that we understand, and those who've come since, that Cayman wasn't always the way it is now, and the tremendous efforts and enterprise that was necessary just to administer the most basic of healthcare, and that so many of our people sort of self-medicated and looked after themselves, and development of local midwives, who generally did all of the duties with respect to birthing. There were few who were formally trained.
And I guess that's where a lot of our herbal medications came from too, as out of necessity, where certain herbs were used.
Yeah, the recognition of bush medicine and its role in health is something that's also being recognized as part of the Hero Day celebration.
Okay, we have one caller online, so we're going to try to take that caller before we go to the news break at 8 o'clock. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.T. Good morning, Premier.
Good morning, Roops. How are you?
Good man, Al, and good morning, Nate, Mr. Ahern.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Something that has bothered me over the years, and I hope that this year somebody will give him the accolades that he deserves, because I'm talking about Dr. Horner, who did more for this island in terms of medicine and medical, whatever contribution than anybody that I could think of, because he was here when the mosquitoes were bad. There was no cars. I remember he used to have to drive from East End to West Bay sometimes, and wherever he stopped that night, that's where he spent his next few days, waiting for the next call to come to, because the transportation was really primitive at that time, and when he was here. And I mean, to think that this man dedicated his life to this thing, and when they were building the new hospital that was supposed to be named after him, and I don't know what it is that anybody has against him, but this is something that has been proposed from way back when the hospital was built, when I think Ezard was Minister for Health at the time, and the intention was the thing was that people wanted the hospital to be named after him, but we have nothing. And the poor guy, I say the poor guy because he was buried in West Bay, and most people don't even know where his grave is. And I think Dr. Banks and Mr. Wells is now trying to do something about it and but this is a sad, sad story, and I think Dr. Horton should be at the top of the list for those who contributed medically to this island.
Yeah, caller. You mentioned Mr. Banks and Mr. Wells in terms of, I think they're trying to raise money for a headstone for Dr. Horder's grave. They were able to identify it, and they wanted to raise money for a headstone. I'm not sure how far they've gotten in terms of that. I did mention it on this show before, and my clarion call was to those in the medical profession, now those doctors who are here now, Caymanian and otherwise, that Dr. Horder paved the way for them. What they have here in the Cayman Islands now has a lot to do with the work of Dr. Horder in those days when he struggled with basically, little or nothing here.
Well, I thank you, O.T., for that, and the thing that it's something a little humor here that he was the only doctor that I know that when you went to him, he would be sitting there with his cigarette hanging out of his mouth and puffing on his cigarette.
Well, I'm not old enough to remember him, but of course, my you will know my mother.
Yes.
Yeah. Trained under him in Jamaica, and she said he used to exist on cigarettes and gallons of tea.
Yep.
He hardly ate. All he did was drink tea and smoke cigarettes.
I heard he also had this saying that when you went to him, he would ask you, "Are you a paying customer or otherwise?" But he accepted people irrespective of whether or not they had the ability to pay.
Yeah, and they often got paid in bread kind and that sort of stuff.
Right. That's right. That's right. And then Nurse Lou, his nurse. And she was there with him all them years. And I mean, it's like we can't forget those people. And I think those are the ones that really, as the Premier said, that built this island. They struggled. They had to go through all kinds of things to survive. And there was days when we talk about mosquitoes, you could grab a handful, just grabbing up the air. So I mean, I hope that they'll give these people, and Miss Maudie, all like them that work.
Oh, many stories about her and the men going to see.
Yeah.
And that urine test.
Yeah.
Well, caller, I want to thank you for
right,
your input, and please feel free to call back if you have any other ideas or anything else. Folks,
Okay, man.
I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor. And I have the pleasure of having in the studio with me as my guest this morning, we have the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. We have Councillor Mr. Al Suku, who is also a member of the Legislative Assembly for the District of Bordentown. And I have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We're going to be going to the news in a few minutes. But before that, I received an email from someone who knows about Dr. Rose, carries the same last name as well.
Right.
Says that Dr. Rose was actually a dispenser,
Right.
but he was brought here by Mr. Willie Farrington after a typhoid outbreak, and he was given a medical practitioner's license, as he was often the only medical professional on island. So he carried the moniker of Dr. Rose after that. Are we ready now for the news, folks? We're going to go to a time check, then we will go to our news. Please stay tuned to 89.9 Radio Cayman and For the Record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, whether you're here in the Cayman Islands or if you're listening overseas via the web. We have in our studio with us this morning the Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin. We have Councillor Mr. Alva Suku, who is also the member of the Legislative Assembly representing the District of Bordentown, and we have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We're discussing Heroes Day celebrations, which will take place on Monday, the 26th of this month, this coming Monday. It is a national holiday, but we urge you before you get into your other festivities that you should go and enjoy and join people in our Heroes Day celebrations. We also want to remind you that it will be carried live by Radio Cayman as well. So for those of you who have a good excuse for not going out there, then you can listen to the celebrations on the radio as well. We have one caller online, and I want to thank that caller for being so extremely patient. I think he's been waiting there. That caller's been waiting for about 15 minutes, but thank you very, very much, and welcome to For the Record, and good morning.
Good morning, Mr. OC, Mr. Record.
Good morning, Mr. Mark Field. How are you?
Pretty good. And good morning to the Honorable Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin.
Morning, Mr. Macfield. How are you?
I'm okay, I'm fine. And good morning to Ms. Ahern,
Good morning.
Chief Officer.
Morning, sir.
And good morning to Mr. Suku, MLA from
Mr.
Bordentown.
Good to hear your voice.
I just called to see perhaps if you had forgotten some of the old pioneers in the medical field. One that comes to mind is Dr. Overton. I don't know if you remember him, if you heard about him.
Yes, very much so.
And he used to ride horses to the districts to attend to his patients. And I don't know if you remember Dr. Cafferty. Dr. Cafferty was brought here by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and he was a Seventh-day Adventist Christian man, and he had a clinic down in the old base in one of those buildings in the back. And the old base it would be near to where Genesis building is now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the Seventh-day Adventist Church was right next door to it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yes. And his wife taught at the Seventh-day Adventist school. And he did the operations there. Dr. Overton also had a clinic in my great-grandfather's house where he used to deliver children down in Maryland with my aunt, who also was a nurse, Malvina McField.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. McKenna Miller was reminding me several months ago that she was born there. They had sent her mother down there when she was getting ready to deliver to have her deliver down there in my grandfather Napoleon McField's house. That was an old homestead house right next door to where my grandfather lived. And of course, there's another point here. I don't know if you remember her. That was Mrs. Seymour. Bobby Seymour's mother.
Right.
She was also a midwife and did a lot of deliveries. And the woman who was the nurse for Dr. Kafka was Mrs. Beulah, and not Mrs. Beulah, Mrs. Clara, that used to live right across
Right,
from where the post office is.
Right,
now.
and next to Mr. Ernest Paddon's, house there, Miss Clara. Yeah.
Yeah,
Big tree
yeah.
right in front of her yard.
Yeah. So they were some of the pioneers, and what the writer said about Dr. Rose is true. That is how he came here, and that is how he got the non-diploma doctor behind his in front of his name. And so they were the old pioneers. Most of the operations were done in people's houses, and then there was Dr. Hadley.
Mm-hmm. Hadley Conley. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Who was a dentist.
He was dentist, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
South Sound.
He used to go from house to house to do operations, and he used to do operations and to do extractions and stuff. He was also one of the early pioneers.
And Dr. Roy, don't forget
and
him.
Dr. Roy McTaggart,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my uncles. One of my uncles in New York was also a dentist. So Cayman is not producing the kind of people now that they produced in those days.
But Mr.
Unfortunately.
But Mr. Markfield, if my recollection serves me right, you trained as a dental technician as well in the early days, didn't you?
I went to New York, a school of dental technology.
Uh-huh.
I got my diploma, and then I'm still a registered dental technician in Canada. Mm-hmm. In other words, I could practice anywhere in any province because I took what they call the National Dental Technicians Board examinations. There was an examination that lasted over 3 days. So I took that, and I'm registered there too.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I couldn't get a job when I came back here. I never did practice here at all.
Mm.
Yeah. So I just want to call to enlighten you about those persons if you had forgotten them.
Well, thank you very much, because some of us are not quite as mature as you, so we don't have that recollection.
And I was actually, Mr. Markfield, I was saying to myself, I know you were probably listening, and I wonder if you would call in, because I know you would be able to add, a lot to, to the historical aspect of this discussion.
Much of what I claim to know is not because I actually was there. It's because I grew up. My mother started in 1951 at the hospital, so I kind of grew up around those things and hearing the stories. So I'm trying to relate and remember stories I was told more really than stuff I actually experienced myself.
Yes, sir. I remember your mother well. I remember when she came back at the hospital, as the qualified nurse. There was a big thing, about her qualifications, that she was, we were so happy that
she didn't
qualified.
She practiced as a nurse from time to time, but she really didn't qualify as a nurse. She was a dispenser, as they called it.
As a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, a pharmacist. Yeah.
I believe she was responsible for training a lot of the nurses, though.
And someone should do the biography of Miss Maud Seymour.
Yeah,
yes.
Miss Maud was there.
Who served them all.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember her well, and her very colorful character.
And language.
I will leave you with this. She used to do all of the analysis for urine, so that the men who were going to have the will have to pass this test. You see, and some of them couldn't pass the test, either too much alcohol or something in the system and whatever it was. So he went home and got his little sister to give the urine in the
to
cup.
produce a specimen.
And, and brought it back and gave it to Miss Maudie. And Miss Maudie said to him, "Is this your boy?" She said, "I know you're too damn up with the house check for the urine." And failed him. Anyway, good morning to you. To the lady and your gentleman.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very
Markfield.
much.
Thank you very
sir.
much. Extremely helpful.
And
We have one
entertaining.
more caller online. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Hello, caller. You want to turn your radio down, please?
Thank you. Good morning to you and your panel.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
This is my first time calling, but I cannot sit and not remember Dr. Horton and Nurse Lou. I, as a young girl, used to work with Dr. Horton. Those days, remember, there were no bottles or anything for them to put medicines in. So we used to get bottles from different people, and he would hire me and Mr. LeGrand to clean and sanitize those bottles for them. I can remember him well. And every morning, yes, it's true, he used to drink a lot of tea and smoke cigarettes, and we used to have to boil 3 onions every morning for him to eat.
Wow.
We couldn't get him to eat food, but he would eat those onions. And it was a joy working with him. He was very funny. Sometimes he would come in and say, all right, just give me 5 minutes, 5 minutes more. And I'll never forget him. And Nurse Lou, she's Lou Rankin. She is a relative by my mother's side. By marrying my mother's uncle, she delivered two of my siblings. And we all had fun together. I can remember, as you said, was about the hospital. Yes, we didn't have no hospitals, but remember, in in the 1950s, my little sister had malaria fever, and it was a place somewhere there where I don't know where it's the new immigration or the old immigration was.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that well. It was a place there where my mother took her to get attended. So I just hope that everything will go well with you all this day, and may God bless you and all your family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and the same to you as well, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so delighted that older persons who experience these things are taking the time and have the interest to call in
Yes.
and help to enlighten all of
Yes,
us
thank you.
about how tough things were and what the struggles were like,
Exactly.
and I think that really captures the whole essence of Heroes Day and what it is that we are trying to do, trying to recognize the contributions and the experiences of a nation, in its very early days, and to help shape the perspective that so many people have of Cayman, particularly, as I said, those who have come more recently and younger people who just have no idea about where we're actually come from.
Yeah, yes.
And so I'd encourage everyone to come out. We need you to be there by 8:30. We're working hard to make the ceremony, sharper and shorter than it has been in the past. So we're aiming for just 2 hours to be able to go through the whole thing. So we will start at 9 o'clock, and we hope to finish precisely at 11. And so we need everybody to be seated at 8:30 as we get the arrivals of the dignitaries and the band, the band and the parade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a very poignant and very powerful ceremony. Something we can all be proud of. Proud to be Caymanians, proud to be part of Cayman, proud to be the beneficiaries of this wonderful history, and as we acknowledge the contributions of those who have worked so hard over so many years.
Thank you. And as we said, it will also be carried live by Radio Cayman as well. So you can also tune into Radio Cayman. We have one caller online still. Are we going to take that caller before the break? Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. Overseer.
Good morning, Mr. Hurston. How are you, sir?
Just fine, thank you, sir. Good morning to the Honorable Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Just fine, sir. Good morning to Miss Jennifer Ahern.
Good morning.
And good morning to Emily and Mr. Aldo.
Morning.
Morning. I just thought I'd mention a couple of other names also. My own aunt, I don't know if you mentioned her before. I'm sorry if you did. My own aunt, Morris Claremont Hurlston,
Yeah,
nurse and midwife
I
here.
remember her very well.
Many, many years, many very important people were brought into this world by her. They know their names, so I won't bother to call their names, and many of them well-known merchants and so forth. And even though, and she also went to Jamaica a lot and worked at the Andrews Memorial Hospital and did private nursing there. She was a practical nurse, really. Got her first certificate of practical nursing, like many of the others were midwifery in 1927. She used to go to the Andrews Memorial Hospital there, which is a Seventh-day hospital in Jamaica, Seventh-day Adventist. So she breaks some of the nurses on Saturdays that they could, I guess, observe the Seventh-day Sabbath. And also over in the Bay Islands, too. I have pictures of her in 1928 over there in her nursing uniform, nursing there. Very well, I can remember her riding her bicycle out in the night. I used to spend a lot of my school holidays here, some with her in the 1950s. Riding her bicycle with the flashlight, going out to deliver babies and so forth, all over. Now, also, the second commissioner to the island, George Stevenson Stewart Hurst, I believe he was a doctor too. He was a medical doctor, I think. Am I right in saying that, Mr. O.C. or Mr. McLaughlin?
I think you are.
Yes.
Yes. And he was actually appointed medical officer also, as well as being a commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And he delivered my mother, as far as my grandmother Selena used to tell me. It was him. Did that. And we know he wrote a lot of history for Cayman. Some of it is a little inaccurate as to the generations, but it's very, very good history, and he took a very important picture. We all know that one, 1910, of the old St. James House, Pedro Castle. That became a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Overton, I don't know if you all mentioned him.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was, I remember him in his older days, because I was growing up in Cayman, and in Jamaica, I mean, and he came over there. My father was building a lot of little sail boats for the yacht club there. He built many as an expert boat builder, if right. And when he was building the big boats, the big people, the big fishing boats, they couldn't pay him for months and months, so he'd take the jobs at the yacht club to build boats. I remember very well. And he built one for Dr. Overton's son, Ken. I think it was in 1955. I remember it very well.
Mm-hmm.
And all that, but Dr. Overton played a pivotal part too, as well. All the names you've called, and I'm sure we probably missed a few. And I just wondered if could just switch quickly to something. I want to commend the Premier on his initiative of definitely getting a minimum wage law passed. I think I heard it on the radio, Mr. McLaughlin. Am I right in saying that?
Well, we're pressing on.
Yes.
We're pressing on. We're not there yet, but we're pressing on.
I understand. I'm very glad to hear that, because it's something I think of paramount importance. The government should not be the only part of our economic life here that has a minimum wage. You know the government has a minimum wage, and it's far above the $4 and $3 that many of the private entities are paying people an hour. And it should be put in place. Should be long overdue. And I'm very disappointed on Chamber of Commerce at their attitude towards it over the years. Each president giving a very, if, what, maybe, when, perhaps so. We will think about it. We'll form a commission to check into it and see when they know it is necessary. Just stalling. I'm disappointed in them. But it should be done. The other thing I would like for you to address also, one thing I must say is I don't know how you're going to enforce it, because we don't have any direct income tax. I don't see any way how it can be enforced, but maybe you have an ace up your sleeve. The other thing I'd like for you and all the MLAs to address, because it is your responsibility, the 18 members, is this unconscionable, unjust, and unequal law, the health insurance, because little people are paying into it a high ratio of their salaries, and it doesn't really offer them anything, and the insurance companies can get away with not honoring their contractual obligations. They get away with it all the while, and the government is left to take up the slack, and it's a burden on the government. And the other one is that unjust, unconscionable law called the pensions law. It doesn't bother me because I'm much, much closer to 70 than to 60. But I think it's unjust for us to mandate that people give their money to some pension administrator to put it on Wall Street and in the other stockbroking places for it to be taxed over there and for it to be used over there, put into funds and all that over there. I think that's wrong. It should be voluntary if it's going to be done that. But mandatory means to me income tax. Mandatory is the only thing that should be taken out of a person's pay by law, should be a tax. I agree with the United States system. It must be a tax if it's mandatory.
Caller asks you if you can leave us there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
for
much.
now, thank you very much. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, we have the Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin, with us. We have Councillor and MLA who represents the District of Bordentown, Mr. Al Suku, and we have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern, and we're talking about Heroes Day celebrations, which will take place on Monday, the 26th of January. We ask you to come out and support it, but it will also be carried live by Radio Cayman. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, and thanks for joining us. We have in the studio with us this morning, and we're discussing Heroes Day celebrations, which will take place on Monday, the 26th of January. We have the Premier and his team, Premier Honorable Alden McLaughlin, MLA and Councillor Mr. Al Suku, and Chief Officer Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We have one caller online, so we're going to take that caller now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you? Haven't heard from you in a while.
I know, painful and thankful. Still very painful and very thankful.
Good.
And good morning to the Premier and Mr. Suku and Ms. Jennifer Ahern.
Good morning, ma'am.
You called me once before after I left my number there when she and Minister Borden were on Pure Show, I think it was, and we had quite a good talk. I start, when I said painful and thankful, I got more pains when I heard Magnus' name called, because that man, I don't know where he should be able to deserve to get a thing. I hope it is Honor Jean. I hope that Nurse Honor Jean is also getting a award, because
we're only saying nice things today.
Pardon me?
I said we're only saying nice things about the health workers today.
Only nice things?
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes, ma'am.
If I could see you, if I had the opportunity of getting to you and we sit down and talk, oh, I could give you a long story about many of what, not about many and about much of what goes on at our HSA. And from the old, I'm talking about the old hospital now with the Magnus, okay?
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I'm not going in there now because I'm living with that for over 36 years, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Houston, he spoke about, he mentioned about insurance. But before I even go there, let me get to Dr. Rose and Dr. Horter. I knew them well. I knew Nurse Lou and all them. I knew about cleaning the bottles and carrying them for him. Dr. Rose, it was mentioned that he used to take care of patients for I had malaria, typhoid fever, and he took care of me. Dr. Rose took care of me for the malaria fever that was way back in '59. And I know that Miss the late Miss Izzy Powell, who was a school teacher. She was also a homegrown bush medicine woman, whatever. She diagnosed me with the malaria fever because of the smell from the perspiration, and brought in Dr. Rose, and the medicine. I remember the cool drink bottle. I can't remember what brand it was them times, but the cool drink bottle. I tell you, I tell you. Let me say you something. I can still taste it. I can still taste the what it was now. You call it the salt physics. Some people call it Epsom salt.
Epsom salt,
I
salt
can still
physic,
taste.
yeah.
I can still taste the Epsom salt, but it cured me
Salt physic and
from
castor oil.
my malaria fever. You know, back now to the insurance, Mr. Premier. I would love very much. Oh, and not before I even go any further that way, let me say this now. I don't know how many have heard over Radio Cayman, Elizabeth. Oh, see, remember your last show where it was announced during a news flash or whatever you want to call that Health City is into the top number 5 list.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Whatever. Okay, they would be higher if they were getting, Mr. Premier, listen good to this now, because I know there's a lot of people that don't know that your sister is the chief medical officer at HSA, but she is doing a better job with the referrals than the chief medical before her. But the whole up in, I am one of the patients for HSA, for Health City, you know, and I'm getting held up by the Cynical. The Cynical takes forever to do the approval, and then when it comes again now to the approval to get an appointment, then you got to do approvals again to do each test. Some of the tests, Health City is not allowed to have it to do them themselves, so they either go Heart Health Center or do at HSA. Okay, I could give you one good example. One good example is the MRI, which you all should know that is a very important test. I did one on the 27th of August last year. That was only sorted out by me having to go up to referrals for them to find it. 2 Monday mornings, I went up there bright and early because 7 weeks I'm waiting for this call.
Caller, we're going to have to ask you to abbreviate it, though. We can't get too much into we don't want to get too much into your personal history, even though we want to hear your experience.
OC.
Right here.
I do not mind it because this is how I got through. Miss Ahern, I can remind Miss Ahern now, when she called me and I told her that, okay, and you should remember too, OC, when I said to the Minister Borden, I could not wait 6 months for that the approval for Health
Oh, yeah.
City.
Yes, I recall
that.
So what you're telling us that they
Listen,
they were eventually helpful to you. You were able to accomplish what was needed.
OC.
Right here.
OC, you hearing me?
Right here, hearing you. Go right ahead.
Listen to me. Please listen good. When Miss Ahern called me, which it was a few days ago, but I know that she is very busy because she's into so many different, you know what I mean. When Mr. Borden and when she and Mr. Borden were onto your show, that I left my number there, that I said I couldn't wait 6 months for that one for Health City. It was already approved then by Mr. McLaughlin's sister in 3 days. And I got my first appointment, and it takes, back about Cynical. Cynical needs to be pushed and jumped and hauled and everything on their feet because they make them be so long before they approve any, after CMO approves, it takes them so long before they approve anything. And then when the test then is done, it takes forever for these doctors to get their report. But I collect my CDs, and where it's possible, I collect my printout report too. Back about October, when I did the MRI in October, the 27th, I collected a CD then, and then just on the 8th of this month, I got a call from Health City saying they had just received that report. This is what I'm talking about. This is the whole up in me having my procedure done. Was you there?
Right here, but we're going to have to cut you soon, so you're going to have to get right to the point because we have other callers that we have queued up, and we have to try to be as fair to everyone as possible.
Yes, so see, I know I'm long-winded, but like I say, I'm very painful too. and the thing about it is, this is the whole up. The cynical is the whole up of me getting my procedure done. That is more than 17 years now overdue. Because the last call that I got saying from Health City saying I had just received that, I did test since October, and I had to go on Monday, and I requested the printouts of these tests, and when I got that call, then saying that they had received that report for the MRI. It was 4 months, almost 5 months, then whatever. They're waiting to get the rest of my. They are waiting now to get the rest of my report, and they can call me and give me a date for my next appointment, and then we can discuss my case further, and then from there we're going to be setting up the date for me to be admitted.
Caller, I want to ask you to leave us there. Thanks for your call. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning, we have the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. We have Councillor and MLA representing the District of Bordentown, Mr. Al Suku, and we have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, we have the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands, Councillor and MLA representing the District of Bordentown, Mr. Al Suku, and Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We're discussing Heroes Day celebrations, which will take place on this coming Monday, the 26th of January 2015. It will take place at its usual place in Heroes Square, carried live by Radio Cayman, but we encourage you all to come out and enjoy the festivities there. There will be lots happening before. You will have the parade, see all of our uniformed units out there. Then, of course, there will be the awards that will take place. And, of course, after that, there will be, celebration in terms of people mingling, eating food, and we know food is an important ingredient in the Cayman psyche and in the Cayman culture. So food will be there, as well. We want to talk about the pin, which is produced, designed locally within government as well. And, of course, whenever we talk about pins and we talk about flags, the colors and everything else has some significance, to it. And for a listening audience and those who may not get an opportunity to see the pin itself up front, we're going to be projecting that on screen for you so that you will see it as well. But we want you to discuss exactly what represents what as far as the pin is concerned.
Okay, thanks, O.C. Obviously the colors, the red, white, and blue, were taken from the Cayman Islands national colors. So you'll see those on the pin. The three triangles represent obviously the three islands, and they're set up in sort of an ascending order, and they depict the growth of health services in the Cayman Islands. Starting from now and moving into the future. Of the aloe and periwinkles that you see on the pin as well were popular ingredients in some of our home remedies, and some of us younger folks didn't know very much about the periwinkle being so important, but it actually is an important part of the historical medicines and so on, the way that we prepared medicines. So those are depicted on there as well. And the serpent and the rod obviously are associated with healing and medicine, and those are in there. And to nicely tie it all together, the banner at the bottom, which has the words Health Services Pioneer on it. That is a link between the pin and the people of the Cayman Islands. So it's, there's a lot of detail in there. A lot of thought went into this, and I think it very accurately and very well represents the efforts that have been made in health services throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say that Charles Gilman, who's the head of the graphics unit at GIS, is the genius behind the design of the pin. He came up with the design while we were sitting in a committee meeting. He started sketching it out, and this is what he came up with. So just a huge thank you to Charles for the amazing work that he's done.
Excellent, excellent. And now when we talk about the celebration on Monday, we're talking about celebrating all of the islands, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman as well. Can you tell us how we've included the other, our sister islands in this?
Well, we received nominations from all three islands through the public nomination process, and then on the committee we had a representative from the sister islands, as well as several of the representatives from the actual health service agencies hail from Cayman Brac as well. So there was a strong Sister Islands influence around the table as well when we were having our discussions. And the thing too is, I think as we mentioned earlier, it's not just doctors and nurses, it's health services, including mental health, environmental health, mosquito control. So it was a really broad range of pioneers that we were looking at.
Premier, you spoke about the ceremony itself, and let's talk about it, because you said it's going to be an abbreviated one, for about
not abbreviated at all. We haven't left out anything, but we've striven to tighten up the whole program, because you might remember in the past sometimes it would go almost as late as 12:30. Sometimes we get more than 3 hours, which is a bit much. I mean, there's a lot to do. But having had the benefit of now significant number of years, and we kind of have a gauge of how long the various aspects of it are going to be, we are striving to get this one done in two hours. Have an impactful, meaningful ceremony that does what we need it to do, honor those contributions, honor the people who have made those contributions, a ceremony befitting of the national stature it has, but at the same time not unduly long, because you can only sit and be engaged in something for so long before it becomes a bit much. So we think 2 hours is just about right.
Okay, and some of the participants in it, we see the Master of Ceremonies is going to be Ms. Lucille Seymour. Right. Quite fitting as well. Her mother being an icon in the
right, and some may not remember, Miss Lucille was also permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health for a time, and she's been around the public service forever, and a community worker, and as you said, Miss Maud is an iconic figure in Cayman Health Services. So I think it's very, very fitting. She's a former MLA as well.
And if we go down the schedule quickly, we have your arrival. We have the arrival of Her Excellency the Governor. And that will take place between 9 and 9:10. And then the speaker will give the proclamation. That will be done by Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly. Then you're going to have a walk past by school children waving flags. Tell us something about that, how that's going to be done, Ms. Jennifer.
Well, the team at the protocol office, Ms. Melanie Sims and her team, have been organizing the event, and they've reached out to the schools. So we'll have representations from a number of the schools who will march, they'll parade past the stage waving the flag.
And then we will have the presentation and hoisting of the flags. That will be done by the uniform branches. And then the national anthem will be sung by, again, our musical icon in the Cayman Islands, Mr. Rudy Miles. No one can sing our national anthem and our national song any better than he does. Prayer for the Cayman Islands by Reverend Taratine Campbell. the commemoration by Proud of Them recipients, Mr. Julian Jervis and Miss Lauren Hugh. Then we have your remarks, Premier, after that, and the presentation of the bravery citations by the Premier and the Honorable Deputy Governor. You want to tell us something about the bravery citation?
Those are secrets.
Secrets? Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't nominated for one, so I know I won't be part of that one.
Well, maybe you should be, but anyhow, that's next year.
Then we have a song by Nicole Barrett Borden, Rebecca Jefferson, and Eric Nicholson. And then we'll have the presentation of the Health Services Early Pioneers and Pioneers by the Honorable Premier and Ms. Ahern, as well. Then the recognition of Emerging Pioneers Memorial Scroll and Long Service in Health Services by Mr. Roy McTaggart, MLA, and Mr. Alva Suku, MLA. Then a special selection, a trip down Health Services Memory Lane, and that will be done by Ms. Deanna Lookloy. That should be interesting as well. Deanna has a way of, projecting things and, making them so local, in terms of the way that she presents. So I'm sure that people are looking forward to that as well. Then we will have the laying of the wreaths and a moment of silence, national song, and that will be done by Mr. Yannick Powell and Mr. Devon Edie. Then we have the usual ceremonial stuff after that. Her Excellency will accept the final royal salute. The Honorable Premier will accept a general salute. The platform party will depart. And here's the good part for everybody, refreshments and entertainments after that. Our parade will comprise the Royal Cayman Islands Police Band, a detachment of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. And we will tell you more about the composition of the parade when we come back. Right now, we ask you to stay tuned to Radio Cayman as we go to our news headlines, and then we will be back shortly for the final half hour of For the Record. Please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome to the last half hour of For the Record, where we're discussing Heroes Day celebrations with the Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin, and Councillor and MLA for the District of Bordentown, Mr. Al Suku, along with the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. We have one caller on line, so we're going to go straight to the caller now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Orton.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, thank you. And special good morning to Honorable Premier, Alden McLaughlin.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Okay.
Good,
you.
good.
And also Chief Officer Ms. Ahern and Councillor Al Sapu.
Good morning.
Good to hear from you.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of National Heroes Day and people who contributed to the country health-wise, our horrible doctor, Mr. Ken Christian, I think the government needs to give this gentleman an opportunity in meeting with him and let him show you facts and proof that he has, that the medication that he has actually healed people. And it won't only just help us here in the Cayman Islands. I'm sure there are a lot of people around the world that would really appreciate knowing that they're able to come here to the Cayman Islands and receive that medication in order to be cured. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that. Premier, any comments?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what to say because obviously bush medicine has been around ever since the world began, and there are clear benefits in some of it. I am in no position to make any judgments about how good Kenneth's stuff is, and I think that is the challenge, the difficulty that a government would have in terms of endorsing something like that. I say this is in no way seeking to denigrate what he does or how good it is. It's that we just have no way of measuring it. And, these days, only licensed medical practitioners are actually authorized to do that sort of thing. So when you sit where we sit in as the government, one has to be cautious about those things because there are huge liability issues that go along with it if things don't go right. I mean, even trained doctors administering medication that's actually been approved by the FDA or somebody else get it wrong at times, let alone something like this that we have no way of measuring how effective it is or indeed whether it might actually cause harm.
What side effects and everything
right.
else, which you get from all medications.
So I have to be cautious about what I say about those things.
Okay, we want to, if we can, get back to the actual ceremony itself and anything else. So I really want to hand over to you to our panel now, so that within the next 20 minutes that we can cover everything that you want to cover in relation to what's going to take place on Monday.
Yeah, and I'll ask Jennifer and Councillor Saku to actually go through the balance of the program and to talk a little bit about what is available afterwards in terms of entertainment, in terms of food, in terms of display and so forth.
Right.
I think, O.C., as you went through the schedule for the ceremony itself, just to remind people that, this is where we're going to reveal who the honorees are. We're keeping it a secret until the day. So we did have such a tremendous response from the public in terms of the nominations that I would encourage everybody who nominated somebody to come on out and see if the person that they nominated to be honored is in fact one of the lucky recipients of either the insignia and the certificate if they were an early pioneer, or a certificate if they're being recognized as an emerging pioneer, the Memorial Scroll or the Long Service Awards. All of the honorees will have an opportunity after the ceremony in the Georgetown Library to get a picture taken with the Premier and the councillors for our ministry, along with their certificate and their families if they'd like to. And the emerging pioneers and pioneers will actually be given their pins during the ceremony. And have a photo taken then. And the other thing that we're going to be revealing during the ceremony on Monday is the theme for next year's Heroes Day as well. So it's another reason to come out so that you hear it first when you come out on Monday morning.
And don't tell me now because I can't keep a secret.
I
won't. Well-guarded secret. So.
And in case people are wondering about why Councillor McTaggart and Councillor Saku, just to make sure everybody understands, Councillor McTaggart is now the councillor with responsibility for health, and Councillor Saku has been from the very start the councillor responsible for culture. Hence the involvement of those two in this ceremony.
Okay.
And also just continuing on, the poster, the Premier actually has one in front of him right now. With everyone who attends the ceremony is going to get one of these.
But it'll be poster sized.
Yeah, it'll be much larger. But it has the actual design that will be on the pins, and also a lot of details, history, and so on. So it's something good. It's something good that you can keep. You can hang on.
Frame it. Yeah. People should frame that.
It's once in a lifetime. You're probably going to see something like this produced by us.
And it's a big thank you to the team at the National Archives, as well as GIS, who have worked very hard on putting this together.
And also, you did mention there was going to be a social afterwards. There is family friendly, so we want to encourage people to bring their kids out and let them experience this event as well. Lots of samples of local food available, and the recipients can mingle with the public, and you can get to speak to them. And I find that it's something that I want to encourage, because in going around especially in Bordentown, when I went around and tried to locate people to nominate them and so on, and sat with them and listened to the stories. It was amazing, you know, the things that you learned, the experiences that the earliest pioneers especially had to share with me. Each one, you could write a book, you know. It was just an amazing experience. So to be able to come out and share, you know, a few moments with the recipients, it would be well worth it.
Okay. Do we know if the Mission House in Bordentown had anything to do with health services? Was it used in any way?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm not aware of that.
Maybe if any of our listeners, know about health services and those aspects in Bordentown, it would be interesting if someone could call in and tell us about that as well. Yeah, that would be interesting. I do know also that, and I believe that there were adverts that were placed for people who wanted to, if they wanted to cater for the event. So this also presented an opportunity for local people to be able to get some form, of work in terms of catering to to the food as well. And you can never cater too much for Caymanian food, because what we don't eat we take home with us.
Yeah, there's also going to be a display in the Georgetown Library of some historic things from health services over the years as well. So just to encourage everybody after the ceremony to make sure they take a look at that too.
I think it's appropriate that I give a shout out to Mrs. Janet Macmillan, who worked in health services at MRCU for 48 years. And we were able to celebrate her retirement last night at Government House in what I thought was a very, very nice ceremony. I mean, it's amazing that anyone works for 48 years anywhere, but 48 years not just with government, but 48 years with MRCU. She started with MRCU 1 year after it was actually established as a unit, and has been there. She's called the mother of MRCU. And I told her the government must have been into child labor, because she must have been about 12 when she started. But she said no, she was actually 17, and it's the only job she's ever had. So I think it's important that we recognize that, because she's one of the early pioneers of health services, because she was around at the very start of MRCU. And as I said last night, and others said as well, what we know as Cayman now, in terms of its viability as a place where financial services is a major industry, where tourism is a major industry, would not be possible if we had not managed to get the mosquitoes under control. I mean, I am old enough to know what mosquitoes were like in the really bad days. And so, people like Janet, who were there at the very start and have worked in every aspect of mosquito control, ought to be recognized properly, which I think we've done. But I take this opportunity on this occasion, as we're talking about National Heroes Day and celebrating those who have made major contributions to health services, to recognize and acknowledge her contribution on the show.
Certainly, and she also worked in the elections process in the elections office for quite a while as presiding officer and poll clerk during her tenure as well too. So she has contributed greatly to the governance in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, she's the longest serving civil servant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is.
And I'd like to say welcome home to Dr. Andrew Brown, who is our newest doctor. He's returning now from Jamaica to take up his
that's
calling
Carl Brown's son.
Carl and Hazel Brown's son. So very proud of Andrew. He is actually my wife's cousin, so I've been following him, his career lately, his progression towards his career, and he's accomplished what he set out to accomplish, and that's an amazing achievement. So
excellent, great. We want to congratulate him as well. We have one caller online. We're going to take that caller now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. O'Connor. Good morning, Honorable Premier. Good morning, Mr. Sekou, and good morning, Mrs. Ahorn.
Good morning, Amjad.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Zurigat.
Today, and I'm not saying no jokes, so I just have a couple of questions, especially to the Honorable Premier as a Minister of Health. The first question is there is any plan in the future from the Ministry of Health? The growing of population in Cayman and the numbers of patients going to Georgetown Hospital is increase every year. Is there a plan to expand any expanding in the hospital size or develop one of those, for example, Town Medical Center to a small or a mini hospital, or is there a plan like this in the future? That's the first question. The second question, there is issue about the health insurance, and there is a lot of concern from poor people in this country about the issue of that everyone have to pay insurance, but he is not getting no services from those insurance companies, and the poor people are suffering in all of this. The last question I asked Ms. Ahern, there's a problem in the appointments in the hospital a little bit, which sometimes you need 4, 5 days, 10, 15 days until you can see a doctor. Is this problem still there, or you think there is improvement? I thank you, Ms. Ahern, for what you do to this country, and I appreciate always what you do. And I think you are a very nice, good lady who do a good job in this country, and I appreciate you. Thank you all, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Amjad.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for that.
Okay, I think I got the questions. But the first thing I want to say is I've been Minister of Health for 5 minutes. So I am not going to sit here and try to pretend that I have that kind of detailed knowledge of where the ministry is intending to go. So I'm going to ask Ms. Ahern if she will address particularly the question about the facilities master plan for HSA in terms of expansion and so forth.
Okay, we're going to go to a break first, and then when we come back, we'll jump right into that. Folks, I want to remind you, you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorit Connor. I'm here with the Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin, and his team, which comprised of Mr. Al Suku, who's the MLA representing the District of Bordentown, and also the councillor in the government, and we have the Chief Officer in the Premier's Ministry, Ms. Jennifer Ahern. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, and we're on our final leg of the show this morning. We're discussing Heroes Day celebrations, which will take place on this coming Monday, the 26th of January 2015, taking place at Heroes Square, celebrating health pioneers and those persons involved in health services in the Cayman Islands, which includes environmental health, as well as MRCU, and includes all 3 islands as well. We have with us the Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin. We have MLA Mr. Al Suku, also the councillor and a member of the Legislative Assembly who represents the District of Bordentown, and Ms. Jennifer Ahern, who is the Chief Officer in the Ministry. And just before Mrs. Ahern discuss it, before we get into Amjad's questions and we get into the last part, I just want to remind people, and you're hearing it here on Radio Cayman in ads that are being run, the 6th annual Julia Hyde's Gospel Fest, which will take place to celebrate the 106th birthday of Aunt Julia, and it'll take place at the Harkwell Theatre on Friday, the 23rd of January 2015, between 6 and 8 p.m. and you can bring your family and friends and celebrate with Aunt Julia. I also want to give
That's this evening.
That's this evening, yeah, this evening. And I also want to give a quick shout out to my good friend, boyhood friend, and still friends while we're growing up, Mr. Alan Moore, who's celebrating a birthday today as well. I just want to say happy birthday to Alan Moore, and we'll be together later on this evening and play some dominoes as well. So let's get back to the issues at hand, Ms. Jennifer.
Okay, just before I answer the caller's question, I had a message on the break regarding some of the information that you detailed in the program for the day. And a couple of the names that you called out actually aren't
changed?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've changed.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be, sorry, I'm just trying to, this is hot off the press. It's to do with the national song, and I'm just waiting for confirmation on that. But the names that you called for the national song actually have changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Not too
in
bad.
case anybody was making plans accordingly. Just to answer the question, the caller's question about the HSA and possible expansion. The Health Services Authority does have a team that's looking on a continuous basis at a facilities master plan for not just the Georgetown Hospital, but all of the capital facilities for the Health Services Authority. So including the district clinics, the Faith Hospital in Cayman Brac, and the medical clinic in Little Cayman. So they are assessing things on an ongoing basis and working on finalizing a master plan for the facilities. But as I'm sure everyone can imagine, any expansion plans are dependent on funding and the prioritizations that apply to it. So it's something the HSA is actively and continuously looking at and constantly assessing. So the caller's comments are noted, and I can assure him that the HSA is on the case and looking at it. He also made a comment about the time it takes to get appointments, a concern about that. And again, that's something that I believe the HSA is aware of. It's something that they are working on continuously to try and improve, not just your access to scheduling of appointments, but the time it takes once you get there to get in for your appointed time as well. It's something that the team at the HSA have been working to try and steadily improve on a continuous basis. So I'm hoping that the caller and that the other clients of the HSA will see with time that those things improve with the new processes they're working on.
Okay, we have one caller, so we're going to try to take that caller before we get to the wrap-up portion of the show. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. We have lost that caller now.
I was just going to add, OC,
sure.
Bigger isn't always necessarily better as well. So the government has just launched its e-government initiative. So we're going to be working with all areas of government to see where, through the use of technology, we don't have to go and invest in huge buildings. We don't have to go and increase capital spending just because the population is growing. So, there are ways that we can harness technology to actually, maybe in some cases, downsize physically. But we have to manage all of that carefully. We're not in the business of downsizing just for the sake of downsizing or chopping jobs and so on. We want to go through a process of recommitting our resources and finding ways to make them more effective through technology. So that's a topic for another day, but I just wanted to put that plug in there for
we can arrange to have you on to discuss it more as well. And since you have the mic, I'll give you an opportunity for your final words as well.
Well, just wanted to thank you for having us on, and I'm looking forward to Monday, and I want to encourage everyone to come out and enjoy it. It's as the Premier said, it's not going to be a long drawn-out event. It's going to be concise, and we're going to have, I think, a good experience there for people to come out and share with our health pioneers and so on. And, it's good for the family, good for the young people to come out as well and experience that. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. I'll be there. My family will be there. And thank you.
Thank you, too. Ms. Ahern?
Just to echo Councillor's comments, encourage everyone to come out. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody there. The team at Protocol Office are working hard to get all the final details in place, and I think it's going to be a fantastic morning, and everybody hopefully will really enjoy it.
Do we have any instructions for people in relation to parking?
Come early so you can find a parking space.
It's a public holiday, so most of the buildings will be empty, and those that the parking lots are not closed off, you can just access those and just park. Park has never proved a problem on National Heroes Day because, as I say, it's a public holiday.
And final words from you, Premier.
Yeah, just to echo the sentiments of my colleagues here, and to welcome and encourage everyone to come out and help celebrate National Heroes Day. It always gives me a sense of great pride on that occasion. The marching bands and the parade and the bands and the whole sense of pride that a ceremony like this instills and invokes. It's really a good feeling, and I think it's very, very good for the country and very good for our people, and encourage everyone to come and help us celebrate on Monday.
And of course, they still have a lot left of the day for them to do other things that they will want to do with it being a public holiday.
Right. You just got to get up a little bit early, get there by 8:30. The ceremony will be over by 11. Get something to eat, socialize, and you can be home by 12, 1 o'clock, do whatever else you want to do for the rest of the day.
Great. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, and into your offices. Here we commit to giving you information, giving you facts as they are, as opposed to rumors and innuendo. We want to thank you for being loyal listeners to the show, not only to the show, but to Radio Cayman as well, which is your radio station. I want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone who's less fortunate than we are, and when you do know that person, I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. I also ask you to think not about those who want, but about those who need, because there are many in our society who are in need. And those needs may be varied. It may not necessarily be financial. It may be moral support. It may be some physical support as well. But we ask you to always remember to be your brothers and your sisters' keeper. And also remember the saying, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Thanks for listening in. Have a great weekend. Remember to attend the Heroes Day ceremony if you can. Throw your support behind our local heroes, those who have gone, and those who are still with us as well. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Again, thanks for listening, and God bless.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.